ugly car that he had. And I got it because it's kind of weird.
It said you were weird.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that. So I'm not a practicing designer. I just get to be up here with these other guys. But I have an engineering and design background, and I've worked at IDEO and Apple and now WSP Environment Energy, our new name. Now I do more environmental consulting for clients, mostly with products, but some carbon footprinting as well. So my green career has been more of a filter between environmental regulations and requirements and designers. So I kind of am the interpreter, if you will. All products are disposable, believe it or not. Your wonderful, great new widget is going to be thrown away at some point. But you know, there really isn't in a way. I mean, there is, you might not see it, but that landfill is next to somebody's house. This, for the environmental science people, obviously is the perfect product, the green product. It's an all natural, it's made out of renewable raw materials, there's no transportation energy, there's no truck coming in, dropping them off. You use renewable energy during its use, there's no toxic byproducts, anything, anywhere along the way. And you know, with the take-back system, you don't have to have somebody truck it off and do something with it. It just drops down and it goes back in. It's great. And this is the basics of biomimicry, right? You want to mimic what nature does with all of these things. Chris Jordan is a Seattle-based photographer, and he started taking pictures in a dump. And, you know, he was just kind of taking pictures and started seeing all this stuff and started doing more research about it. So the back image is the full-scale image, and it's about 5 feet by 60 inches by 96 inches. And then the front image is the close-up. So those are all a bunch of little cups. All those cups, that's a lot of cups. 410,000 cups. The number of hot beverage paper cups used in the US every 15 minutes. That's a heck of a lot of cups. Your typical hot beverage cup has a petroleum-based plastic cap. It's got a paper cup, but then it's got a petroleum-based lining. So, you know, that's what most people use, and then they just throw it away, right? What you could use is a biodegradable plastic for the lid. Sorry, there's no lid there. Ecotainer is a paper cup that has whose liner is actually a biodegradable liner. So it's a corn-based resin, and that's what Tully's is using. So I don't know if you've seen the biodegradable cup kind of thing. That's what they're using. So that's great, right? Compost it. But so all these people who are getting these cups, when they get to the office, well, except for at Frog where they have the compost bin, but if you don't have a compost bin, then what do you do with it? Do you take it home? Or do you just, well, I'll just throw it away. It'll biodegrade somewhere. Well, landfills, they usually don't biodegrade. I mean, they open those up and you can read newspapers, which normally would biodegrade. You can, I think they found like big chunks of carrots, because you don't have the air and you don't have all that turnover, you know, when, you know how they tell you to turn over your compost? There's a reason, you know, get oxygen in there and turn it all over and it'll break down. You won't do that in a landfill that's covered up and sealed. The Ecotainer is a great option. You can make it more compostable, but you also need to start thinking about the behavior of how these people are going to use these. Is it going to be better to give them this and then try and change their behavior so that they compost these? Or is it better to give them a reusable mug that, you know, they always just bring that and they wash it over? Another fairly simple, typical kind of disposable product. Obviously we need clean portable water. That's the need, right? There's my little bitty bottle over there that I brought in reuse. The reusable bottle option is great, right? You have your own bottle, you're going to clean it, you're going to reuse it. But if you don't have a place to get the water, then you just have your empty bottle and you still don't have your water, and you're just carrying around your bottle, right? There's other options in terms of these bottles. There's this cornstarch-based bottle, and it actually has a filter in there as well, so I guess if you are out in the woods and you need water, and you could shove it in there and try and get it through that filter, and you'd have some clean water. Again, it's about changing behavior though. With the reusable aluminum bottle, you're gonna have to bring it, you're gonna have to remember to fill it. With The cornstarch-based bottle, again, where are you gonna compost that? There's a lot of things that are touted as being compostable, but even the big composters can't necessarily compost them in a fast enough time frame. I live in Seattle, King County, and we have great composting. We can put our pizza boxes in there and everything. But if you have a lot of those, Trader Joe's, for example, you can buy produce in the compostable plastic. So, oh great, it's compostable. But now what do I do with it? I can't put it in my recycling because that's gonna mess up the regular plastic recycling. I can't put it in my compost because it doesn't break down fast enough for Cedar Grove, who composts that. And they have some pretty industrial composting. But they also sell their compost. And me as a consumer, if I'm buying their compost, do I want little bits of plastic, which are probably gonna biodegrade, but I don't really want to see them out in my yard, right? So you kind of have to think through everything. Another consumable product, I don't know if you guys have seen the recycling toothbrush. They're not typically sold with that huge wall of toothbrushes that you see like at Target. I've seen them at Trader Joe's. The first one that I purchased was probably almost 10 years ago in Boston. And they did have these little envelopes where you can stick them back in there and send them back to them. And they'll recycle them, basically downcycling, I think, but they're recycling them down into plastic lumber. They ask you to put as many as you can in there, so they do the tongue cleaners and the toothbrushes. So they have their take-back system. You don't have to go find an envelope, you don't have to pay for the postage. What was that address again? They've got it right there. And I've looked on their website. They've worked with dentists and everybody to get the right bristles and the ergonomics of the handle, and they've redesigned that. So from a design point, that's great, right? But if you're looking at this toothbrush and you're looking at that other one with all those little edges that are telling you when to change your toothbrush, and that other little, that little thing that's supposed to help stimulate your gums and all that other stuff, which may or may not be useful, but I don't know. I'm not a dentist. I'm just supposed to brush my teeth. And you see this one and you're like, well, there's this take-back thing or this one. And, it's not, to me, it doesn't necessarily compare. I'm not, criticizing recycling. I think it's great that they have their take-back system, but from a design kind of marketing standpoint, I think they're not playing out the same field. Okay, now we're getting into technological, and this is kind of where I could stand here for a long, long time. The back picture is 426,000 cell phones, which are retired every day in the US. Kind of similar to what Adam was commenting on in terms of turnover of cell phones. So obviously I've jumped from a very disposable product to a very technological, very complex product or products industry. Generally, you're not going to have a compostable computer. You're not going to have a compostable cell phone, most likely. But in terms of materials, and believe it or not, as complex as electronic products are, the electronics companies are doing a lot of work in terms of environmental issues. There are a lot of directives that are coming out of the EU. There's a ROS directive. It's restriction of hazardous substances, and that's being mimicked in California, Korea, China. Same-sex substances, and they're limiting the levels of them in your product. You can't sell them above those levels. In terms of energy, they need to have energy-efficient hardware. I'm sure many of you have seen the Energy Star logo. In order to put that logo on your product, you have to meet a certain level. So in sleep, it's below a certain level. Longevity isn't generally addressed, I don't think, in technological products. For example, the cell phone, with the cell phone. But if you love your electronic product, and generally people who have Macs tend to love their Macs. Oh, I love this PowerBook. I don't generally hear that from PCs owners. Not that they don't love their PCs. They're great. They're more of a tool. But when you really value something personal, when you make a connection between the user and the product, where they really value that product, they're going to keep it longer. Even if it's the most toxic product in the world, keeping that out of landfill is better environmentally, in my point of view. That also gets into the take back. If the product has more value, it's more likely to get taken back or returned. continuing down the landscape in terms of time of, disposability, if you will. These are durable products. They're called durable products, or they're called white goods. But, they do have an end of life, as well as buildings, which are huge products. What I propose is that you're not designing a grain product. You're not going to design the end-all product, or you're going to be renamed Mother Nature. But you can change a lot. You can change a lot of little things. You don't have to change all of them. It would be great if you could, but you just don't have the time. You have a deadline for your class, or you have a deadline for a client. You need to turn it over. You need to finish it. But you can take any of these parts and work on them. Kind of like what the one student said in the video of follow your passion. So pick the one thing that you're good at or what you're interested in. If you're designing the outside, then do something with the outside. If you're the electrical engineer who's designing the circuit board, the PCB that nobody's going to see, but you make it really energy efficient, then that's your contribution. Or maybe you're making a decision to make this so that everyone just, I love this. I don't know what it is about this. It doesn't work anymore, but I still want to keep it. Then you're keeping it out of the landfill. And that's me. Thank you.